Hello and welcome to the It's Later Than You Think podcast. I'm your host, Patrick. So glad you could join me today. Hope you have had a good start to your month of August. This is being released on the 5th of the month. As usual, there's plenty going on here in Milwaukee. The Wisconsin State Fair is underway through the rest of this week. The Milwaukee Brewers, as of recording, are hot. They are playing well. They have the best record in the league, which is surprising even to say. Fingers crossed that holds up for a little while longer. My guest today is Fancy B, an up-and-coming author who has a background in law and has decided to take up a little passion project, and she wrote a book, and that's amazing. It was a great conversation. I had a really enjoyable time talking with Fancy, and I'm sure you will also enjoy our chat. All right, I am very thrilled to introduce my guest this week, Fancy B. Welcome
Hi.
to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks again. I mean, it's later than you think. Just the concept of the podcast really resonated with me, and I liked your hosting style. So I just thought it would be a great platform to be on and to connect with you and see what happens,
Sure.
where our conversation goes.
Great. You've started to have a little bit of a transition. We'll call it legal briefs to love stories. What made you switch from law to library, and how has that change been?
Yeah, so honestly, writing is something that I've always liked to do. I remember, and I don't know if I should even go back this far. This might be a little too much.
Oh, please do.
So in third grade, I got this assignment. The class got this assignment, and it was to use our 10 spelling words in a story for homework.
Oh my gosh.
And so
I remember that. We had the same teacher.
Did you? My teacher was like doing some groundbreaking stuff, so apparently it's fairly pretty standard. This is why I changed my life. Oh, everybody got that assignment.
I just ruined the story, but I was going to say, wait a minute. I remember doing that too. Yeah.
No, yeah. So that was the homework assignment. And so we turned it in, and then at the end of the day, after lunch, when we were packed up, we had a story time, which my teacher normally didn't do, but she was like, I want to read everybody a story. And she read my story. She thought it was so good.
Oh, cool.
It was a mystery of the missing pencils, and yeah, really riveting stuff. And I had included like all of my classmates in it. We had folks that were witnesses to the possibility, and we had the victim and blase. And so the kids were like super engaged because they were in it. And I remember like covering my face the whole time because I was so embarrassed. I didn't know she was going to do it. And so everyone clapped after, and my teacher was like, you are just a great writer. That's such a good job. And I was like, oh my God, maybe I am. And so I started writing. And then by fifth grade, I was kind of like entering like local writing competitions for elementary kids. And it was just something that was fun. But being kind of a type A people pleaser personality and growing up in a pretty strict West Indian home, it was like, you're going to be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer, or a nurse. You can do that. Those are the four choices. And so I wanted to make my parents proud. And it's not that I didn't want to be an attorney. I was like, this out of all of these, like this is the best one. I like to talk and I like to write. And I even remember in a law school essay, I wrote about writing and how integral it was to the legal profession and how passionate I was about writing. And so it was always there. It's just, it, the pivot never happened because there was
Yeah.
other stuff to do. And it just never seemed like it needed to be prioritized until right before COVID. I was like, you know what? I need to do this. I really want to, and it's time. So
Did COVID then help push you along, or was it more of a, oh, crap? I mean, because obviously the world kind of was chaotic for a while.
oddly, I think COVID kind of probably stopped the momentum because I had finished my first draft by January 2019.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, so now it's time to start like revising and cleaning this up. And then by the end of the year, the world stopped. Like, and writing a novel in the middle of a world pandemic is just not a priority for me.
Yeah.
I had become a mom for the second time. And so family was at the forefront. And so I actually had put it down until 2024. So
Okay.
that was, yeah. So it was a while.
Pause. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the mystery of the pencils ever get solved?
The mystery of the pencils, it did get solved. We had a happy ending to that story. And I guess the mystery continued because the book I wrote, even though it's a romance novel, it has thriller/mystery elements.
Okay.
So yeah, I guess I'd never thought of that, but yeah, it's a continuation of the pencils.
Come full circle.
Yeah, it did. It was kind of full circle. Yeah.
That's great. How about perfectionism and imposter syndrome? How has this affected your day-to-day life?
Oh gosh. That's it's a really huge question. And it's funny, yesterday, I have two kids. My son, who's the eldest, he's 10, and he literally said this to me yesterday. He was like, "Mom, why does everything have to be so perfect? Like, why does everything have to be so precise and perfect? Like, can't we just relax?" And I was like, it's not about being perfect. It's about doing your best. And I know your best could always be a little bit better than whatever we're doing. Like such a mom answer. Yeah. I mean, career wise in the legal field, if you happen to be type A and you go into law, it's really just turning up the volume on that. They teach you like every punctuation has to be perfect because it could alter the nature of the contract and, so
Sure.
Everything has to be precise and really as close to perfect as possible, particularly having practiced also criminal law. Like when people's freedom is on the line, that's not really the time. Or on the other hand, if you are, representing on behalf of the state or, you're working for the government, which I also did, you really do have to be careful about people's rights and those kinds of things. So yeah, you got to be perfect. The problem is when the stakes aren't that high because you're just at home or just doing things, it's hard to get out of that space. I don't know, like you doing the podcast and deciding that, hey, this is a really good concept for a podcast and then going for it. I don't know. I don't know how much of their, I don't know how much was there kind of I don't want to release this until it's perfect or, editing until you're down to the, or not releasing it because you're concerned or if you just went with the flow. I envy people who can do that.
It doesn't bother me as much. If it comes out the way it does, there's a certain aspect I want it to sound like, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, I'm kind of doing this for fun. And
yeah,
and
that's the piece of, the everyday life that I am really trying to learn to navigate. Mm-hmm. Because what it does, first off with imposter syndrome, you get in your head about thinking, you see these finished products, people who have already written multiple series and, you
Sure.
know, that sort of thing if you're talking about writing or in any area. And so you see yourself at the beginning and you haven't like gone through the thing. And so you're like, how, this is the end? How can I possibly get there? What skill set do I have? Like, what do I need to learn? What, you see everything that you're missing instead of looking at the things you have. And that can really stall any progress that you're trying to make. And then there's the other piece of, you know, perfectionism really stealing or taking away the element of fun, even if you want to do
Yeah.
it for fun. Like, this is something I've wanted to do for so long because I enjoyed it and I felt passionate about it. And I don't have to come out the gate with the best book of all time and down to every plot point, because then I'm not having fun anymore.
Yeah.
I'm stressed about it.
Yep.
And that was never the point. That wasn't what the 11-year-old me was trying to accomplish
Sure.
at all. So really working on doing things and just giving myself grace to do it and enjoy the process.
Yeah. Really, it's easier said than done, but compare yourself to yourself and not others.
Yeah.
That's I see that a lot in different industries of people I talk to are like, oh well, this person does that. I'm like, okay, well, what are you doing? And that really, it's we not only do we create our own happiness, but we can only control what we can. That for me has worked out really well,
Yeah.
just in life in general.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a huge takeaway, and I can never hear that message enough as I'm trying to be more mindful about, you know, letting go of those pesky habits I picked up. It sucks too when those are things that have helped you achieve in the past and they've been positive. Like every time I am really like anxious and focused and trying to be perfect, all these good things come with that. You
Yeah.
get good grades and you get, you know, or you do really well because you're
Yep.
extra prepared. But then there's the other side of it. Everything in moderation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Well, I imagine that's kind of tough. Just as far as, I mean, I can't imagine working in law where you have to really be on top of your game.
Yeah.
I am working in learning development. There's quite a bit more wiggle room as far as it's not, the urgency is usually not there.
Yeah. And there's an understanding, I think, in learning and development, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's almost like to be good at that, you have to be open to error and learning and making mistakes, and like you've got to
Correct.
be that makes you better than, you know, being rigid and inflexible.
Yeah, for sure. And I think part of that, the strength at least I have, is I've got the organizational part and needing to be on from my teaching days where it was more rigid. You got the kids in the classroom for 7 hours a day. It's time to really be on your game, where now kind of in the corporate side, it's okay. Yes, there's things to do, but the flexibility is there. And that allows me to, again, make those adjustments if we need to adapt the training or we need to design something. It's not, it's that the autonomy and the trust that's built up with my employer has helped.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Again, it's just so funny to just see the contrast in what success looks like in different spaces, because when you are more open and flexible, then you can change, you can adapt, you can find the right every iteration can do a little bit more until you work your way to the end product, as opposed to one shot. If we lose today, maybe we can appeal, maybe we don't, but it may be it. So yeah, working on changing my frame of mind with what success looks like and how flexibility and leaning into just the journey of it can actually be better, can create that better outcome than what's worked in the past for me.
Live and learn, and so what life's about, all the experience, and it's true. Let's talk about, speaking of books and writing, when did this idea for Hollywood Heartbreaks come to you, and what can people expect when they read the book or series?
Yeah. So Hollywood Heartbreaks, when I decided, okay, it is time for me to just do this, I didn't really have a set story in mind. And so I prayed for a story. I was just like, okay, I really want to do this, but I'm going to write something, you know, can I get something? And so at the time I was reading a lot of YA, and I mean, I was coming out of probably reading more YA because there was like a trend in the mid 2000s of like kind of like 2009 to, there were like all the Hunger Games and all the, those type books, and also some romance. And so I said, okay, well, I'll do a contemporary romance. And usually for contemporary romance, the goal is for the happy ending. Everybody wants like that love story. Will they, won't they? And then there's a happy ending. But coming from the legal field, I was like, we've got to have higher stakes in this. Like, I don't break a big deal. There are plenty of fish in the sea, right? So I was like, let's up the ante and add a little bit of thriller in here, and we're going to have higher stakes. And Hollywood just seemed like a great place for, crazy fans and triangles and the press and all of these other things that made it just more interesting to me. So what you can expect for those who are interested in romance novels, you'll definitely get those tropes and those like key traditional genre themes in the book, but there's a little bit more edge, and there are definitely some really cool plot twists. I mean, really cool. I'm so biased, right?
Oh, yeah.
Definitely some plot twists. It's a page turner, and there's a little bit of suspense there and some mystery happening. So it's
exciting.
It is. I think it's really exciting, and it's surprising because I don't think that a lot of people, particularly the cover, it's very like pink and soft. And then when you read it, it's kind of, I don't know, for those who watch Netflix, I don't know if I'm allowed to say Netflix.
I think you can say Netflix.
It's the lawyer in me that's like, what's a licensing? But so if you watch Netflix series, maybe there's a little bit of Emily in Paris, and there's a little bit of you. So
okay, yeah. I just finished that series.
So if you and Emily in Paris had a baby, it would be Hollywood Heartbreaks.
I love it.
So it's fun times.
Is that just a follow-up question then? The time it takes to really focus from start to finish. I mean, I guess your first novel, start to finish, was this a fairly smooth transition? Or I know you said before COVID you kind of had started an idea, but
yeah. So it's interesting. When I got the idea for the book, I did have a little bit of that imposter syndrome, because even though I enjoyed writing and I knew that once upon a time, pre-college, maybe a little bit in college, I did it. It had been like over a decade since I even tried to write anything. And so I thought, okay, I don't even know how I'm going to approach this. Like, do I need to enroll in a writing class at the community college? Like, what do I do? Do I go to YouTube University? Like,
yeah, right.
How do I approach this? And so I decided I know how to do law. I know how to put a case together. And I know how to, and really when you're preparing for trial, it's really a lot of project management. It's really all there. And so I was like, I'm going to do this like I'm managing a project. I'm going to do a case with it. I'm going to get to know these characters and build them out and interrogate them and figure out
Yeah.
what their motives are. And
Sure.
I got myself a big binder like I do for my case binders. And I had all of their information in there
That's smart.
and what the story looks like. I did timelines. I did a project plan. And because I'm kind of crazy, I was like, all right, so it's mid-September. I'm going to do this by the end of the year. So we've got about 90 days. So we got
Oh,
90 days and we're going to finish this. And so if I want, let's see, a novel is according to, Wikipedia or wherever I looked it up, I was like, novels on average have to have a minimum of 70,000 words to be considered a novel and not a novella. I want a novel, so I've got to write 70,000 words by December 31st. So I was like, let's do the math. How many words a day? And so that's kind of how it rolled. I did that, and I had a huge desk calendar, and I know this sounds so crazy, but like that's how I approached it. And by January, I wanted to, because I took some time off for Thanksgiving and Christmas. By the end of maybe the first or second week of January, I'd completed my first draft. So that part, even though there were some gaps of like, writer's block and things like
yeah.
that, I really just like hit the road and I was like, we're just going to get it done, whatever this looks like. And then later I'll worry about cleaning it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the cleanup was the nightmare because I had, I had written this thing in that time. And so when I picked it up several years later, there was work to do.
Yeah. That's
So
incredible though.
that was the crazy part.
I think that's helpful though, just knowing that if you ever needed to do that again, like, hey, I can crank something out for whatever reason.
Yeah. No, that's true. I hadn't even considered that, but yeah, I mean, if need be. But I mean, you remember like in college you had that essay. Maybe you didn't ever like procrastinate at all, but you had that
Oh,
thing that you had to like
I
get
did.
done and they gave you that word count. And so now you're like, don't or do not. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's 2 words. It's 2 words. Yeah. Yep.
So, and you kind of did that sprint to get to the finish line. It was just like a lot of those put
Mm-hmm.
together. Intense, but I still think sometimes it's easier to edit something than to create something from thin air. So
Yeah. Yeah. I would say I'd agree with that. But I think that was smart though you have the big desk calendar and kind of plot out. And granted, you did have some time off, obviously, like you should, as far as between the holidays and everything. But that kind of brought me to the memory of something that it's just more about productivity and about what Jerry Seinfeld had said years ago about not breaking the chain. So his whole thing, as far as when his goal every day, and he wants to stay fresh as a comedian, he wants to write one joke every day. And so he has you put a big calendar on your wall, and every day he goes, I write a joke, X.
yeah,
Next day, X. I don't want to break the chain because it's just a mental, similarly to what you did as far as I got 90 or 70.
90 days or
90
70,000.
days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. Just going to keep going and keep marking that off every time you get your goal. I think it's a way. Otherwise, if you can use that in any goal, whether it's a fitness goal or work related or personal goal, if you say, I'm going to work out 2 days this week. Okay. Well, now it's Friday and you haven't worked out yet. So I think having those more specific, I'm going to write a little bit each day.
Yeah.
I'm going to work out Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Right.
You have
I've got to get at least 500 words. Don't get up until,
Yep.
And putting it on like the work calendar. I did that. I was like, lunchtime, this 30 minutes, it's enough time to, if I can't get at least 250 or whatever the case was, but I'd block it out and I'd better be sitting there and doing it so that it was, done. I also, because just accountability purposes, even with your working out example, if you have a workout buddy or somebody who can call you and say, did you work out today? I just did, are you doing it? Or whatever, it increases your success. So I joined like a virtual writers group, and everybody was writing something. It was like 10 of us online, and we would just check in once a week. It wasn't like a group meeting or anything like that. We would just like check in and post on our thread, like, okay, this is what I did. Here's my pledge of what we're trying to do. Okay, no judgment. We're not reading each other's stuff. We just know that these are the folks, this is what they're doing, and we're checking in. So that was also helpful
for sure. That's
to have that accountability.
Yeah. So it sounds like you were trying to find any time in your day, which leads me to my next question. How have you been able to juggle work, family, other passion projects? How do you prioritize?
So it's interesting. I don't know how. I don't know how. I was actually
asking you. Hope you could help me.
I don't. So in the past, post-COVID, work from home and flexible schedules have been more of a thing. And in the past year or so, I just can't even fathom waking up at like 5 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. and getting myself ready and like my kids ready and then dropping them off at daycare and then going in traffic for like 45-minute commute to work and then working and then driving and picking up and then coming home and like cooking dinner. Like that sounds so like, how did I not just die? But we all used to do that. Like we were all in traffic for unless you were lucky and your job was around the corner. But so you do these things and you're just doing them. And maybe you are exhausted, but you're too tired to tell that you're tired. I have no idea. And so I look back and I'm like, I don't know how. Now I do remember being up some nights, like till 2 a.m., just typing. I do remember that. There were times where in order to meet certain deadlines, I put my son to bed. At the time, my daughter wasn't here yet. And my husband would be like, all right, good night. You're working on your thing, and I'm like, I'll be right in. It's like 10 o'clock. I'll be right in. And 4 hours later, I'm still like going. So I know that there were some sacrifices in sleep for sure.
Yeah.
But otherwise it was like lunch breaks, dedicated time. And I think once you put something on your plate and you're committed to it, you find time. I don't know. I don't know. How do you find time and you're working and you still want to maintain friendships and family functions and other things, working out or whatever it is. And then you still have time to host and edit a podcast.
You need definitely a certain level of energy, whether that comes from the exercise or catching up on sleep at some point, or allowing yourself to do the things you enjoy. Where I, for example, with work, my work is Monday through Friday, 40 hours.
Yeah.
And I leave work at work. And so I'm flexible too, where I have more of the work from home situation. I think I like making lists. So just of stuff that I want to get done for the day, or things I might be looking forward to, whether it goes on the calendar or not. And I guess prioritizing what gives me energy.
Yeah,
I think that's great. Part of the, I've said this a couple of times on here, but I used to think I was more extroverted pre-COVID, very social and just conversation and get that energy from conversation. Where I think with COVID though, and again, maybe this isn't the exact definition. I know like introverts will say like it's not, extrovert doesn't necessarily mean you like going out and being social, because introverts do as well. But it's like, where do you get your energy from? And when it's time to like reset, what do you do? But I like the phrase ambivert, which is basically a mix of both. And so that, and again, maybe this doesn't fit cookie cutter, but I found during COVID when we were in that initial isolation and lockdown, I remember first thinking like, this is going to be terrible. And within like a month, this is great. I don't have to talk to anybody. I don't have to see anyone.
Wow.
I enjoyed it. Maybe because I was on furlough for 5 weeks and I just binge watched the hell out of any show I wanted to. Since then, in the last 5 years, I do find myself where my social battery will run out.
No, I think that's, I'm trying to remember the exact phrase that you used. I can't, it'll come to me.
Okay.
But I love that, first off, lists are great because I totally am a list person and I write things too, like by hand,
Yep.
because and I love crossing something off.
Yeah.
Talk about a dopamine hit.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Okay,
That's
quick.
true.
Do you ever add something to your list that you've already done, like just recently did? Like, oh, I meant to put, and then you cross it off. Like, okay, that's.
I did that the other day. Yeah. I was like, wait, I did more today.
Yeah.
But it was
Like,
one of those things where it was one of those things I do often, so I probably didn't need it on the list. I was very productive today. So yes.
Yeah, it's like a little bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's about prioritizing, really. And is there time to do everything? No. But I think what it was is you said it's about prioritizing what gives you energy. And just because you've got more on your plate doesn't mean it is kind of like literally on your plate food, right? If we're talking about food, there's kind of junk food and then there's really nutritious food. And if you have more on your plate that's nutritious, great nutritional value, and it revitalizes you, it gives you energy, it gives you peace, and you've got a lot of that on your plate, you're able to do a lot more with the time that you have versus if you've got a lot of junk food on that plate, you're going to burn out a lot sooner. So I think this is one of those things that it did give me a lot of energy. That's why I've also had to stay up and write briefs, till
Sure.
2 or 3 in the morning. And oh my gosh, that was not always easy. But this was just exciting as just seeing the story unfurl and like having, when I got into that zone, I took advantage.
Yeah, the flow. Yep.
Yeah. I'm like, why stop? If it's going and, I'm going, why not? So that was really, it felt great to do. The other thing was the job switch for sure. When I decided to write the book, I was definitely I was in a place where I needed a break. I was really feeling the burnout in a different way. And I was like, I just think it's time to switch things up. And I think I'm thinking about these other things that I'm really passionate about because I'm so ready to step away and shift to life, do it a little bit differently. And in order to do that, I've got to get out of my comfort zone and do something different. So I started looking for other opportunities that would give me the space and time that I would need to put more of that good food on my plate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of reminds me of this book I was currently reading. Discipline is Destiny. And it's a Ryan Holiday book on like stoicism. So it talked about finding the time and doing the things that you want, but making sure you're creating that time by organizing again what's important to you. So one of the chapters I just read was being able to say no.
Preach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that how important that can be.
That's a big one. And I think as, with the kind of the theme of it's later than you think, I think as we age and mature, you'll find people doing more of what they enjoy and less of what they used to feel like they had to do because they now have maybe the confidence or the ability to say no more. That definitely, some people, maybe they kept that toddler energy, like, no, from like that time on and their entire life they've been able to. But But I think it takes, for a lot of people, it takes a little bit more time to come out of the, I want to be polite, or I don't want to hurt you, or let me help out, or whatever the reason for saying yes when it's overextending yourself. Like it takes a little bit. And then you get to that place in life where you're like, you know what? No.
And so that book, Discipline is Destiny. The chapter is talking about Booker T. Washington and just how busy he was, pulled in all these different directions. And Ryan, the author, basically states that, he could have done this. Hey, can I borrow you for a minute? Or, hey, do you mind if we spend some time doing this? And there's things that you focus on what's important to you, what needs to get done. And for order for things that need to get done, you have to work on them. And it can't be all, you're always going to be pulled in certain directions. So you have to prioritize what's important: family, health, and then that task, right? So if you're working on a novel that's important to you, you have to prioritize, okay, where does that fit in to my schedule? I've got my kids, my husband, my career, but then also passion projects and this other hobby turned career. That you only got so many hours in the day. And so you have to kind of prioritize. And there are going to be some times where you have to put other things on the back burner.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not yet. I mean, and even with not yet, you want to be careful with that because like you said, you don't want it to turn into a back burner situation that never gets accomplished, but being even specific in your not yet, what's that timeline look like? Well, this is where it's going to fit in the year. Not yet. And here's when, like pairing those two maybe helps get those things that you want to get done while leaving space and not burning out. Well, the other thing is I do not endorse like not sleeping to get things done. If you need to sleep, please sleep. This was not an every single night thing, but See,
that's where you and I would differ. I would say, okay, so she said 90 days. I'm thinking like 900 because I love sleep. My body is 7 to 8 hours. Like you better be pushing towards that. And I don't have kids. And so I've been fortunate where I can tell my dog, hey, no, we're still sleeping. Not time to get up yet. But she'll be like, okay. But it's I know I've got siblings and
no, I mean, even with the kids thing, like I will say this, and again, every parent is different, but bedtime is sacred to us. I remember my daughter when she's 5, she was like, Mom, can we stay up a little bit? I said, no, because mommy's off the clock when you go to bed. And I really want to have a good day tomorrow. And I want to be super nice to you tomorrow. So you've got to go to bed. This is for both of us. So I said, you don't have to go to sleep. You just have to go to bed. So we've got to do that.
That's what I used to tell the students. I'd say, okay, well, let's behave Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, because I still want to like you on Friday.
Yes, exactly.
Friday can be really fun if we get all our work done now. Teachers that have stuck with it and have continued or are going into it, like it's great. You have to have. I found out when I left, I liked it. I just didn't love it. Okay, well, this isn't worth all the stress and anxiety that I have. So,
it's one of the most stressful professions, period. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So regarding the whole podcast theme about living the moment, it's later than you think. I know we talked about before we hit record about how it's not too late. Because that was a quote that my friend Jess that came on the podcast, we were talking how it's, she's we were talking about her marathon training and how she got into running the last couple years, and how it's never too late, and like, well, it's also later than you think. So it's but what's one way that you find yourself living in the moment, and why is that important to you?
Yeah. Okay. So when you say like living in the moment, this book journey has definitely been a live in the moment process in terms of like just really dedicating and pouring myself, carving out time to do something for me that I really care about and love. But if you're thinking like if you're talking like every day living in the moment, I find that I am most mindful with my chickens. It's almost like yoga. It's like you're hands. I can sit, and if I'm not careful, I now set an alarm because I could absolutely sit all day with everything going on and just watch the birds. And it
Yeah.
is so peaceful and so nice to not think about everything happening around you, all of the things on that to-do list that we love to cross things off of.
Yeah.
Um, and just taking that beat and clearing your mind and just really just watching them peck around and walk around. They're hilarious. They're funny. That is, I think after I looked down at the time a few times. I was like, oh my gosh, where did 25 minutes go?
Yeah.
Was I really just sitting here? Am I the crazy chicken like this?
We should probably clarify that those weren't the kids you were talking about earlier. Is that correct?
No, they're not. No, it's, and my son said that too. After school, he would come and he'd say, can I spend a little time with the chickens? He came back and he was like, it's just so relaxing, Mom. It's like, I'm just, it
Calm,
just feels
peaceful.
really quiet. And when he said that, I was like, yes, that's what it is. This is what mindfulness really feels like.
Yeah.
Being in the moment is just being present and not thinking about what to do next. And I know that like it's later than you think. Like I mentioned to you a little before we hit record, like you said, it's kind of like the opposite side of the coin of it's not too late. We're kind of saying the same thing, but there's also a little bit more urgency to it. But I think it's one of those, it's never too late to pause and learn how to do that. Because I definitely did not know how. Like,
for sure. Yeah. That ties into that whole concept there. Okay, it's not too late to get things going, but also we talked about not yet.
Yeah.
But okay, so when's that going to happen? And what's the phrase? If not now, when?
Yeah.
You keep saying now, not now. Well, okay, that's tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Tomorrow is always a day away. If you make it today, like I'm going to write that tomorrow. I'm going to do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay, well, it's not going to happen if you don't have that plan. And I think taking the time, like you said, spending it in nature or the mindfulness thing where putting the cell phone down for a minute, it's hard. And I think about this when I was reading that book earlier, and some of the stoicism stuff that I like to look into and read about, controlling what we can and just taking a moment to be present. And yes, society has changed in a way, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's got to be that way. Just because we have these devices on our hips, in our hands, that give us the whole world, and there's so many great aspects of it, that doesn't necessarily mean that it has to be something that you sleep next to.
Yeah. I appreciate the fact that the book talks about mindfulness, because sometimes at first when this phenomena started happening where I was like so mesmerized by these birds with the chickens, that I would time would lapse. It wasn't ever, I've never been in there for like an hour or anything like that in the run or anything with them for like an hour or anything like that. But it felt like I was a little upset because I did lose track of time and I could have been doing something more productive. I found it to be like, this was oddly enjoyable and peaceful, but I should have been doing something else, or I could have been doing something else with that 25 minutes or 20 minutes. But we definitely need to remind people or encourage each other, reinforce the idea that mindfulness, stillness, not death scrolling type mindlessness, mindfulness
Yeah.
is very much connected to achieving your goals, being creative, finding discipline even. When I got the chickens, you know how your phone tells you how long you've been on the phone or those types
Yep.
of things?
Oh yeah.
My usage like plummeted. And part of that was being still. I may have wasted 20 minutes by sitting there and admiring the birds eating and doing their little things. But then I didn't spend an hour. I was kind of out of that loop where you're like checking your phone more often.
Yep.
You know, when you reset, it was way more productive and more present,
Oh
if
yeah.
that makes sense.
And I think it's good to analyze if you were to sit down at the end of the night, whether you were journaling or just sitting there and contemplating, collecting your thoughts on your day, 100 times out of 100, you should really think, okay, I spent my day, I was quite productive today. I got to sit and chill out with the chickens 25 minutes versus if you were to say, oh, it was kind of cool. I laid down on the couch and scrolled mindlessly for 25 minutes and got jealous or angry or whatever at other people's crap. That's the thing. It's very rarely. I mean, I have a Milwaukee Instagram account that I use. I don't use it as much as I probably could, but at the same time that's time I don't want to spend on my phone and making reels and all that. Like that's not the primary focus of it. I know that I can read some self-improvement books, or I can work on my podcast, or I can go work out or whatever. That's time that I know I enjoy. And I don't know, it just.
No, I love that. I love that. At the end of the day, I'm going to spend that 25 minutes somewhere, and it's not always going to be doing something like it's not always going to be an assignment or a
Sure.
chore or something like that.
Sure.
There's going to be 25 minutes of sitting. But when I'm done sitting, do I want a clear mind and a peaceful,
Yeah.
feeling about what I just did, or do I want to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling from scrolling? That makes so much sense. That really is the difference.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of just, even if you're not thinking about it, it's there. It's just, I think because it's something that can bother you or upset you for, whatever reason. And yeah, again, I would so much rather, even if it's the end of the night where I've had a busy day and I'm like, I'm just going to turn the TV on and watch some mindless TV or maybe a good show that I'm binging.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather focus on that, enjoy myself there, watch something I want to versus getting distracted on my phone. And just, there's a lot out there and it's not always very healthy.
And the quality is different. You're right. Even the quality of watching like a drama or a comedy and having like a 30-minute or more plot is going to be different than like those 10, 20, 30-second hits.
Yeah.
And then your attention span is like writing as you go. And it makes it harder. I can watch a movie and feel inspired about, a plot point or a short story or something like that. But that rarely, maybe it's never happened, just getting like 20 seconds of content and then something completely different, even if it's all positive.
Right. And there's studies out there that talk about this exact thing of how it's, not good. There's plenty of positives that go on with the social media, but at the same time, it's tough. You could spend all this extra time, reading the Hollywood Heartbreaks.
Hollywood Heartbreaks. Yeah.
Hollywood Heartbreaks. And
it's so true.
I want to give you a moment before we wrap things up to tell us a little bit, more where people can find the book and anything else you'd like to share about that.
Yeah. So Hollywood Heartbreaks, I do have a subtitle to it. It's A Love in the Limelight Romance, because I may or may not have ideas for a second novel, kind of a spin-off from the characters. So Hollywood Heartbreaks, A Love in the Limelight Romance by Fancy Bee. You can get this really anywhere books are sold. It's available at Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Amazon, of course, it's not available on audio just yet, but it is available in hardcover, soft cover, and as a digital book or Kindle book. And yeah, if you're into romance, if you're into suspense or thrillers, I think you'll really like this book. It's a great beach read. Take it on your summer getaway and enjoy those quiet moments with the book. I think people will really like it.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
since you've been a guest, I'm definitely going to check it out. So,
But thank
cool.
you so much for the opportunity to talk. I know
Of
we
course.
talked about quite a bit, but yeah, this was a great conversation, and thank you for letting me discuss Hollywood Heartbreaks. I really
Yeah, of
appreciate it.
course. Thanks. Best of luck with everything, and I hope there is a book 2 in the future. So I'm looking forward to checking that out. Whether I get the book on Kindle or hardcover. So
Sounds good.
all
All
right.
right.
Well, thanks again, Fancy. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Bye.
Yep. Bye. I want to thank Fancy for coming on the pod and telling us all about the book writing process and her decision to write Hollywood Heartbreaks, a love in the limelight romance. As she mentioned, it's available pretty much anywhere you get your books. Check it out on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, etc. Hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you again next time.